Hey, it's Louise Hvala and you're watching Gatehouse Insights. On today's episode, I'm joined by Courtenay Zajicek, who is the General Counsel at Curves and Jenny Craig. Courtenay, it's so lovely seeing you today.
No problem, thanks for having me.
So let's start with your legal career journey, looking at how it all began, what motivated you to get into law and how you've ended up in your current position.
For sure. So actually I wanted to be a lawyer from a very, very young age. I remember vividly, I think I was 6 or 7, and I remember my dad turning around to me at one point and he just said, "You need to be a lawyer, you argue with me all the time." And that kind of just stuck with me. So all through my schooling and then through university, I went through to become a lawyer. So I did all of my studies. So as I was studying, I was lucky enough to get a legal admin role at Wendy's. So I did that as I was studying, and then I was really lucky that a solicitor position opened up at Wendy's. So I took on that role and I worked directly under a very experienced legal counsel for about 4.5 years. So that really started my legal career and my in-house career, and really developed my love for in-house and law, and it was great to have that one-on-one mentor support. So from there, the company actually decided to relocate to Melbourne, which is why I'm here now. And then they actually decided to go to Sydney, but I love Melbourne so much. So I'm a Melbourne based now, and then was lucky enough to get the role with Curves and Jenny Craig now. So I'm working there as their General Counsel and Company Secretary, and enjoying every minute of it.
How did you get the position at Jenny Craig?
Yeah, so the director at Wendy's previously, he actually moved over to Jenny Craig as well, and he liked the work that I did at Wendy's, so he asked me if I would come along as well, which was great. So it was nice to be recognised for that hard work and have that opportunity to continue.
Now, you've always worked in-house, so you've never really been on the private practice side of things.
No.
A lot of people we meet and through Gatehouse, they've all gone from private practice to in-house. Have you ever thought about going from in-house to private practice?
I have actually. So I think it is definitely a unique set of circumstances that I found myself in, and I certainly didn't go through my studies thinking I would be an in-house lawyer. To be honest, I didn't really even know that that was an option at the time, and I kind of fell into it. And as the years continued, I thought if I'm going to do private practice, I really need to do that and get those groundings. And I did have a look into it and went and spoke to a few people, and when it came down to it and actually making that decision, I couldn't give up my in-house role because I just love it so much. And I think you really need to work closely with people who work in private practice anyway as an in-house lawyer. Need to be able to outsource that work and have that connection. You can't do it all yourself. So they have a unique set of skills, and I think I have a unique set of skills, and we tend to work together. So I've been lucky enough to start in in-house, and I think that's certainly where I'm going to stay.
What do you love so much about in-house?
I love getting involved in the brand of a business. So I like working for one client, and you know, when I was at Wendy's, I got to live that brand and be everyone's favourite treat experience and try the ice cream and the hot dogs and really get involved in that brand. And on the flip side now with Curves and Jenny Craig, we really help people and lose weight and improve their healthy lifestyle and fitness. And I actually personally joined the Jenny Craig program, and I lost a significant amount of weight on the program. So I really live the brand that I'm working for, which I think is such a unique experience, being a lawyer that you might not otherwise get.
Now, other than technical legal skills, which is a given, what are some other skills and strengths you need to be a highly successful in-house lawyer?
I think the most important one has to be relationships and rapport. I think an in-house lawyer can only be successful if the people that you work with feel comfortable enough to come up and speak to you. They almost need to feel like they're not speaking to a traditional lawyer in the sense. So they don't want to feel like they're going to be judged if they ask a question, or you know, that they're going to get a legalistic answer, if a choice of a better word. So they want to be able to come up and have that open conversation, and it's there that I can help them steer in the right direction, away from maybe doing something that they potentially shouldn't be doing to something that maybe they should. So I think relationships is really important, and developing that. I actually sit on the management team, which makes, I think, the role so effective, because people don't necessarily know that they need to bring an issue to you. They might not know that it's got a legal connection or a potential legal ramification linked to it. So having a seat at the table, I can then think, okay, no, we need to look at that further, or we need to investigate this, or let's catch up separately. So that's something that I guess a private practice lawyer certainly doesn't have the benefit of. And I like being involved at the start before a matter can get escalated and it gets out of control. I like to be able to solve it nice and quickly. So definitely relationships.
Any challenges? What are your main challenges as an in-house lawyer?
Definitely for me, resourcing is a key one, and I think most in-house lawyers would say the same. So, you know, we don't have LexisNexis or Casebase or precedent libraries or anything like that. So, or often admin support. So I'm the sole one in my team, for example. There's no administrative support or other lawyers in the role, and I think that's because when you work in-house, the business is focused on its marketing, its operations and its management, and legal is definitely a support function and needs to be a support function. I think we're in a firm that is the business providing legal services, so resourcing is definitely a challenge, and you have to be prepared to get in and type your own documents, do your own spreadsheets, research wherever possible, but also to build those relationships with an external law firm and acknowledge where your limitations are. So I can set the groundwork and I can help brief out instructions so that we can get the best legal advice in the most accurate way and the quickest way, rather than just brain dump on a law firm. I can give clear instructions, but knowing those limitations I think is really important.
And when you brief private practice firms, do you use one specific one, or do you go to multiple that are specialised in certain areas?
Yeah, we tend to go to specialised. So I've got 2 or 3 that we would go to for different matters. So Curves is completely franchised, and Jenny Craig is completely corporate. So we do have, for the Curves side of the business, an external firm that we'll go to for franchising matters, because it's important to be experienced, I think, with the franchising code and that type of legislation. But then from a Jenny Craig perspective, there's a lot of employment matters, so knowledge of the Fair Work Act is key, so we'll use a different specialist for that as well. So building those relationships is really important.
What are some of the rewards of being an in-house lawyer?
Yeah, I think for me it's again working for a brand and a company, and actually celebrating the business and their achievements. So you know, if they have a company birthday or they hit budget or targets, or there's someone who's been there for a milestone. You know, Jenny Craig and Curves are both quite old brands. They've been around for a really long time, so they've got a lot of milestones to celebrate, and getting involved in that is lovely. And the benefit for me as well, I like business. You know, I went into the legal industry because I really enjoy the law, but importantly, I really do like operations and marketing and finance, heaven forbid. I like all of the business elements, and I've actually studied a MBA as well, just to expand my knowledge of business operations. So being at that level is an advantage and a benefit for me in itself, because you get such a wide exposure to how the company operates and celebrates success as well.
Have you found that with learning and development, Jenny Craig and Curves and even Wendy's were really, they really encouraged it for you to, I suppose, learn new things to help with the business just from a general operational point of view? Were they encouraging from that point of view?
Very much so. I've been very lucky that both businesses are open and appreciate that. Even though I'm the company lawyer, I still want to get involved and have that training and understanding of other areas, because it's the best way to give legal advice. You know, the marketing department have a very different focus and KPI set and agenda than maybe the finance team. So being able to tailor that advice and that structure around that department is really important, and having that training and understanding of the business is key. They've both been really supportive though of ongoing legal training, so they send me to a lot of conferences and seminars. So I'll go up to the franchising conference later in the year to keep that franchising connection happening, as well as being a member of the Association of Corporate Counsel for in-house lawyers. So it can be quite an isolating role from the legal profession sometimes, so having those connections and that being facilitated by the company is lovely as well.
Do you find that with the different departments such as marketing, sales, finance, you have to really adapt your style to the different groups?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not only personality, so you certainly, in any role that you're in, you have to understand people's personalities, and some might want to have a conversation over a coffee in the kitchen and quite informal, others will want a very structured email so they can consider it later. So not only managing personalities, but departments operate very differently as well. And I think, I've learned from Jenny Craig, for example, marketing, they're managing so many different areas, and we're on TV a lot for Jenny Craig, so they actually get the TVCs back quite late and they need to turn around really quite quickly. So it's understanding that need and why that is. So it's not that they're sending it to me at the last minute because they're trying to be difficult. It's because they've only just received it and they've got a deadline to get it on TV. So, we've set up a process now where I know what day that's roughly going to come, so I can actually block some time off in the afternoon for whenever it is that comes through, so I don't book meetings. So that's where those relationships come in, and I think you really get that as an in-house lawyer speaking to people, whereas if they were outsourcing that to private practice, they wouldn't have that luxury to be able to do that, I don't think. So that's a benefit.
Do you find the teams, like say sales, want to do all these amazing things and you're like, oh, just hold off in a second? Do you find that to be the case?
There is a little bit of that, and I think that's because they're creative and they're on the ground and they can see all these exciting things that might work, and that happens a lot in competitions that they want to run, because they can see they can get everybody on board and really build some engagement and some excitement, and then the awful lawyer comes in and says, well, you need permits and licenses and you've got to comply with this and this and this. But, it's breaking down that stigma, which is really important as an in-house lawyer, that you're a business preventer, and having those conversations. So again, having those relationships, they actually come and we brainstorm. So I'm part of the WIP meetings with marketing and operations and sales now, so I can help steer them in that direction before they get too far down the track with an idea that might not work or might need tweaking. We can actually do that at the brainstorming stage. Which is really exciting. So, and I try not to curb their enthusiasm for what they're doing, but just try to educate them early, which they're much more receptive of, because if you spent maybe a month working on an idea and getting so excited about it, and then the lawyer comes in at the end and says, no, you can't do that, it's a little bit harder, but doing it at the brainstorming stage is great, and which is another reason why I really like in-house, having that seat at that table.
And I suppose you wouldn't want to get in, or you don't want to really give too much advice at the beginning, because then you'll stifle creativity. So you let them go, and then if you have to chime in,
that's right. Yeah, that's right. So it'll be things like if they're thinking about a slogan or a tagline to use in marketing, it's making them think about, so I think a lot about misleading and deceptive conduct legislation, for example. So rather than saying that's misleading and deceptive, because that's not helpful for the conversation, it's about saying to them, and how will a consumer perceive that message? So once we put that message out in the market, what will they think that they're getting when we put that message? So often they'll actually think about that themselves and say, oh yeah, well, they'll think they're getting this where we're actually giving them this, so we need to change this word or change the messaging. So again, it's about communication style, and often without saying what the legal potential risk is, it's getting them to come to that conclusion by asking the right questions, I think. And then they feel like they can still be creative and think their way through it, when I've put a few little things for them to think about in there as well.
Is that something you've trialled and error over the years?
It is actually, yeah. So when I very first started, the manager that I had would attend those meetings, and she tried a few different approaches as well, and we would chat about them afterwards. And I think it's always much better received, rather than going in and saying, no, you can't do this because of this piece of legislation, the end. It's certainly much better to have that open conversation and get them to reach that decision, because there's very little time that, there's never that they'll actually go out and intentionally try to breach anything. And also the legislation's never clear in those areas about what you can and can't say. It's all a perception thing often. So it's just getting them to really think about their messaging and what their objective is, and getting to that. So yeah, it's been a bit of a trial and error, but I think this works best and builds rapport and relationships and gets them to keep coming back and involving me in the process.
Future dreams and plans for you. Do you have any? Where are you headed next? What's on the agenda?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure, to be honest. I think I mentioned earlier I had considered private practice purely because I think a lot of even in-house roles out there as well do like that private practice background. And I can certainly appreciate why, because you get such broad legal technical skills. But to be honest, I think I see myself just staying in-house, and I'm quite comfortable being, having that legal background broadly, but having that really strong business knowledge is, I think, what's going to set me apart, and understanding those limitations so that I can outsource work if it gets too legally technical beyond those experiences, because I just see myself being in a company, in a brand that I love, and just helping bring the team together and being cohesive. So what that might look like, I'm not too sure, but I do love Melbourne, so it'll probably be around here somewhere, and I'm sticking around with Jenny Craig and Curves for a while longer.
Wonderful. Courtney, this has been great, so thanks for sharing.
Not a problem. Thanks so much for having me.
Now, Courtney and I would love to hear from you. What is the biggest insight you're taking away from today's conversation? Comment and share below and let us know. If you like this episode, please subscribe to our channels and share this video with your friends. And thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Gatehouse Insights.